Hello. As you work through your test project, you probably want to add a test class to that project. So let's do that now.
So let's talk about adding an additional test class to our test project. So in order to do this, there are actually a number of steps we need to take. And I think the easiest way to understand that is to consider what it is that makes this a test project. And just as we talked about references and using directives and namespaces before, we can apply that information to the problem of adding a test class to a test project. So here in Visual Studio, we have a unit test project, and it really doesn't matter what the code is. The point is it's got a test class, and in that test class it's got a test method. So what makes this project a test project are its references to outside code. Specifically, let's take a look at the dependencies for this test project, and under Packages, we see that we have some references here. It doesn't really matter what they are. The point is that the way you construct a test project is by having references to code that supports that. Now, of course, to add a new test class to our test project, we don't need to add any references because they've already been created for us. So what we do need is the using directive associated with the namespace for our test project. We need the attribute test class on the class itself, and we need the attribute test method on the method. That's pretty straightforward. One thing that's a little less obvious is that the class itself must be public so that the test runner can see it, and that the method needs to be public. So unfortunately, we can't just add a new test class. What we have to do instead is just to add a new class and then decorate it so that it can act as a test class. So let's do that. So we right-click on the test project. We select Add Class, and so this will just be a regular class until we change it, and we'll name it and click Add, and here we see it, and let's make those modifications. Again, we don't need to add a reference because the needed references are already part of the project. But going back to the first class in this test project, we do need this using directive, so I just copy that. We don't actually need these other ones, so I'll delete them. We need to mark the class as a test class. We need to change the access specifier for the class to public so that the test framework can see it. And then when we add a new test method, it must also be marked with the test method attribute, and that method must be public and void. And finally, take no parameters. And again, the actual code inside the method is immaterial. The point is we've added an additional test class to our test project. And we can see that that all worked by going to Test, Test Explorer, and we see we have the unit test class, which was the original class that was added to the test project, and then another test class. So the critical items were you have to add the using directive for the appropriate namespace. You have to attach the test class attribute to the additional test class. Make sure that that class is marked as public. You have to attach the test method attribute to your test method, and that method must be public and be of return type void. So that's how you add an additional test class to a test project. Thanks for listening.
So that's how you add a test class to a test project. Wow, you look like you're really working hard. Make sure you take a break every once in a while.